Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing Alakhine 101 in the 15-minute pool in ICC. No, you haven't clicked on yesterday's video. This is a new game against Alakhine 101, and he's opening with e4 again. Same colors. I'm actually posting two videos today because my last one was a quick win. What can we play against him? Let's play a Caro-Kann. So we played a Scandinavian and yesterday a Sicilian. So let's differentiate our play a bit and play a Caro-Kann instead. So that's why I went up in rating by 1 point. It's like I had a game that ended pretty quickly in the C3 Sicilian, so now I'm playing another one. So same strategy against this guy as I employed yesterday. I'm going to try not to fall too far behind on the clock. I am not going to be intimidated by any bluffy play that he might engage in. And I'm going to play my normal solid chess and, if possible, take the initiative, although he usually succeeds in preventing me from doing that. So we're playing a King's Indian attack position. And this is one decent setup, I know, for black. It's just to play the pawn to e5 and then put the bishop on d6. Unlike a King's Indian attack against, say, a French, here I have this luxury of putting the pawn on e5, so I'm taking that opportunity. And usually they do go g3, bishop g2. Plays d4. Okay, I think this move is also possible. I'll have to try to remember what to do against it. I'm thinking taking on d4, but I wonder if then he'll take on d5 and try to saddle me with an isolated pawn. That's not the end of the world. Taking on e4 allows knight takes e4 with tempo on my bishop, so not as thrilled about that move. I could reinforce this pawn with knight d7, but all told, I think it's better to take on d4. That just seems like a simple and good decision. So let's do that. So if he takes d5, I might play c5. Push past and defend this pawn. Seems a little weird that this would happen so early. Like me having a pawn on d4, him having a pawn on d5, but it might come down to like whose pawn is weaker. I mean, as of now, I'm just tempted to say that his pawn will be weaker. Very difficult to know for certain. If I have to take here, it feels almost like a mini defeat because then he can take on d4 and I am saddled with that pawn. So let's be principled and defend this. Maybe knight e7 was another move, trying to get him to take on c6 so we could take back and defend this pawn. But again, I would have an isolated pawn in that case. So here I'm just trying to basically surround this pawn on d5. He can go knight e4, and then after, like, say, knight e7, play bishop b5 check. That would compel me to play king f8,
check.
Because if I blocked with a piece, my bishop would be hanging. Here I can just play bishop d7 if I want. Yeah, let's do that. So I'll offer a trade.
Check.
Now knight e4, knight c4 doesn't work because his bishop would hang. Against that, maybe queen e7? Maybe. I guess his idea is knight e7, knight e4 is the point of his play. Maybe I should play king f8. I lose my castling right, but I think I can get better coordinated than him and do so more quickly, so it might not be bad that I'm losing the right to castle. If queen e7, I'm just not thrilled about his knight coming in to like e4, most likely. Queen e7, knight e4. If bishop takes b5, he takes with the queen with check. Yeah, I'm just not sure about that position. King f8, he can castle, and if I play queen takes e4, he has rook e1, and he hits that e8 square as well. King f8 might not be half bad here. Looks very strange, I know, but might be okay. Let's just think a second, though. Queen e7, knight e4. Threatening knight takes d6. Oh, yeah, and then if bishop takes b5, he can actually play knight takes d6 check. He doesn't even have to play queen takes b5. And also, if knight e7 to start, knight e4 is the same issue. Is that big of a deal, though, if I play, like, queen, I don't know, b6, let's say? So knight e7, knight e4, queen b6. How's he going to hurt me there? So I'm not seeing it. Knight e7. There's also knight c4, but knight c4 I have maybe just bishop takes b5. Knight takes d6, queen takes d6, queen takes b5, queen d7, defending the b7 pawn. Ooh, that would lose this pawn, though. You know what I could play instead? So knight e7, knight c4, bishop takes b5, knight takes d6 check, queen takes d6, queen takes b5. I could just play knight d7 there. And then if queen takes b7, just castle. He's going to lose this pawn. We should be completely fine. That's got to be okay. So let me just double check because this is an important decision. Knight e7, knight e4, we're playing queen b6. Not queen a5 check, interestingly. Queen b6 instead to guard the bishop. And I'm thinking that should be fine. Yeah, I don't see a way for him to, like, ratchet up the pressure significantly there. Okay, let's go ahead and do it. What does he have in store? So I spent a little time on that one. I don't mind that because I want to get it right. King f8 might have been inferior. I was afraid I might be accepting like a bad position, or a slightly worse position, that is. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and play this move. Threatening the bishop. I mean, interestingly, the bishop is not actually threatened because he has, like, in response to bishop takes b5, he could play queen takes b5, queen takes b5, knight takes d6 check. So, I mean, I guess what I'm kind of threatening is just a castle, like whisk my king away to safety. I mean, in that sense, I wonder if he could play bishop g5 here. Huh. Bishop g5, f6. I don't think a sacrifice on f6 is that troublesome. Nah, it shouldn't be. I'll be very curious what he does on this move. This could be a wild move if he wants to continue attacking. He might just take on d7, but of course, we're taking with the knight, and we're, I think, pretty pleased with that position. All I want to do is get castle now. I mean, that's priority number one. Just safeguard the king. So if bishop g5, f6, if knight takes f6, g takes f6, bishop takes f6, just rook f8, attacking the bishop. Oh, actually, not even rook f8. We could take on b5. So he won't sack the knight on f6. If he were to sack anything, it would be the bishop. So, for instance, bishop g5, f6, bishop takes f6, g takes f6, knight takes f6. Let's say king d8 then. But I think with my king being relatively safe and his bishop on b5 still be loose, I think that's fine if he goes for that. Fine for us. What else could he do? Knight takes d6 doesn't bother us. Bishop takes d7 only helps our development. He could play a move like a4, but I'm castling then. And hopefully this d5 pawn just becomes a weakness. Other than those lines I've mentioned already, I don't see a whole lot for him. Yeah, he opts for a4. So, I mean, simply castling seems like a consistent way to play it. Note that knight takes d5 right away would be a disaster because we're opening the e-file towards our king. He could take our bishop. So if I castle, he takes d6, we take with the queen. We're guarding the e7 knight. So I see no issue there. Yeah, let's go ahead and play this. Get the king to safety. He might withdraw this bishop. Like he might play bishop c4 in order to guard d5. That would be a pretty reasonable move. My development is maybe a little confounded by the fact that my bishop is on the square that my knight wants to go to. So if he were to play bishop c4, maybe bishop f5 to make way for knight d7. Be nice to play queen b4 check, but it's not winning anything. Yeah, I think bishop c4, bishop f5 is fine. Looking to play knight d7. All right, that's not a move I foresaw. Makes sense, though. He's trying to come to c4. Okay, so if we take on b5, let's say pawn takes. Knight takes d5, knight c4 is no good. So that's sort of out of the question. It's a possibly annoyingly good move. Knight f to d2. Hard to see those backward knight moves. I'd like to not have to move this bishop if I could. Maybe I can just play knight c8 and be solid. But then he has stuff like knight c8, knight c4, let's say queen c7, knight, let's say knight c takes d6, knight takes d6, and then bishop f4 is a problem. I could take on b5, bishop takes b5, a takes b5, queen back to d8, knight c4, knight c8, but it's so horribly passive. I do not like that line. Queen a5 would disrupt their plan for now, but they can castle and renew the threat of knight c4. Oh yeah, queen a5 also hangs my bishop on d6. Hello. Knight f5 is the most accurate, or most active, but it can get chased away with g4. Bishop takes b5, a takes b5. Let's say queen d8, knight c4, knight c8. I mean, it's holding for now. It's just, it's like very passive. Just like super duper passive. I don't like that line at all. Moving the bishop doesn't really help us. Like, bishop c7, knight here. And they're going to play d6 on the next move more than likely. Same with bishop e5, knight c4. Unless I can swing my queen over to g6 and take the pawn. Seems unlikely, though, that that would be good. The annoying thing is I can't like disturb either of his knights. Like the e4 knight I can't get at quick enough, and the c4 knight I can't prevent from getting to that square. That's the big issue I'm facing right now. What about bishop takes b5, a takes b5, bishop f4? Intending knight c4, queen over to h6. Then he could trade and maybe play knight b6. And I lose an exchange. It's about the best I see right now, though. Okay, I'm just going to take. I got to play a move, or I'm going to be so low on time. Okay, so bishop f4, knight c4, queen h6. If he trades, we take. That knight b6 move is coming. Knight c8 is just, ugh. It's so gross to play that move. Knight c8, knight c4, queen to d8. I mean, he is like a little far behind on development, so maybe there is that redeeming feature of it. You know what? I'm gonna do that line. Nothing else I've looked at is any good. Wait, so I should probably play queen d8 first. Yeah, I should preface that move with queen d8. Okay, let's bring this back. So knight c4, knight c8 is the current plan, and try to unwind after that, like rook e8 maybe to come, and then bishop back to f8. Just attempt to get out of this mess. 4.5 minutes remaining. I mean, one thing I do have going for me is the fact that he hasn't castled yet. And that's somewhat of a saving grace here. But that might be like the only good thing we can say about our position at the moment. Knight takes d5 like doesn't work in the slightest, so let's just do this. It's really hard to shake this position though. Bishop g5. What's his plan with that move? Okay, so if I play bishop e7, what's going on? Not entirely sure, actually. Bishop e7 trade. I can take with my knight. Maybe. Bishop e7, he might play bishop f4. What if f6? If f6, knight e takes d6, knight takes d6. With queen e6, I have knight f7. That should be fine, right? Bishop e7 or f6. Really low on time. Got to make a decision. Okay, we're going with this move. If bishop f4, I can take on d5. And finally get at that pawn. So I am threatening to take this guy. Strange position. If take on e7, I want to decide right now which way to take. I'm leaning towards knight takes. Yeah, let's pre-move knight takes. 3.5 minutes remaining. Can't afford to be choosy. I might work my way out of this yet. He's got a 2-to-1 time edge, but it's not, in pure amount of time on the clock, it's not that much. 3.5 minutes. Okay, so I'm expecting d6 now, and I'll play the knight back to c8 if he does that. So if take on c5, I take d6. Meanwhile, if he castles or something, just knight d7, I think. The nice thing is he's going to have to expend a tempo like what he just did right there, castling. So now, at least we're coordinated for the most part. And we've defended the c5 pawn, and we blockaded this pawn. So kind of like last game that I played with him, we're blockading the pawns. I want to go knight b6 next move and try to swap further. He can go knight a5 in response, but I think I can defend this pawn. It's not a big problem. Okay, I'm kind of worming my way out. I feel much better than I did a couple moves ago. It just took a while to figure out what to do against knight fd2 on move 11. I mean, I kind of spotted this continuation right away, but I resisted playing it for so long because it looked kind of gross. I probably just spent too much time on that move, period, but okay, let's do this. Look for trades. The other knight coming to that square also might have been decent, but that would have left c5 weak. If knight a5, I think rook b8 should be all right. Or maybe queen c8, I'm not quite sure. Rook b8, they have knight back to b3. Let's play queen c8 instead. How do I coordinate then, though? All right, we're just going to do it, though. I need to defend both of these pawns. You could maybe go rook a3 and try to swing this rook over, attack my king. Not easy to shake. Maybe I'll go rook e8 and then knight back to f8. But if he plays rook a3, rook e8, rook g3, I don't have time for that because there's knight f6 thereafter. Probably I should go to e5 with this knight, huh? So like rook a3, knight e5, and open up the option of sticking it on g6. And then if I go to e5, like the d7 square, this knight moves, the d7 square is open. So there is that. Yeah, I think knight e5 is not a bad idea right now, given everything I'm grappling with at the moment. Let's play it. Queen g3, knight here might be a little risky in view of knight g6 or whatnot. Okay, let's bring this back here. For defense, h4 is possible. h4, h5, queen g5. Under pressure. If knight d5, h5, knight gf4, he has h6. I am really precariously placed there. Okay, let's play h5. Not pleased about this. Losing that h-pawn is a problem. Big problem. Okay, we gotta look for trades. I'm abandoning the b and c pawns, though. I'm hitting this h-pawn. Fortunately, that h-pawn is maybe inconsequential right now. Let's bring our knight up to f4. 1 minute 48 to 4.5 minutes. Guess I'll just take that. So now we can start harvesting my b and c pawns. Probably knight takes c5 is the way to start. I want that d pawn. Clearly that would be good to get. So like say knight takes c5, if rook d8 he can take with that knight is the issue. Okay, he takes there instead. Okay, let's push the c pawn. Thinking he maybe should have taken on c5 instead. Because that B pawn was a goner no matter what, but now maybe I can keep my C pawn and maintain some counterplay.
Check.
Okay, we'll come here. Probably take on G4. He does. If I go there, he has knight rook e7. Maybe not. I didn't want to use the other rook because I would lose the a7 pawn. So if rook e7, I could play a knight to d5. Like rook e7, knight f to d5. And his rook doesn't have anywhere on the 7th rank that could stay defending this knight. So we're currently down a pawn. If knight a5, I'm thinking rook back to d8. This is what I want to do. If knight c5, same thing, rook d8. It's just all hands on deck to try to win this guy. He's still maintaining a 2-to-1 time advantage. It's getting a little dicier. So knight e4, I have f5, forking the two knights. Knight b7, I play rook d7. That's a good move. If knight here, he has g3. Okay, well, I'm going to do this. If g3, maybe f5, actually. I do have f5. No, then g3, f5, take. Okay, let's try it. I'm weakening the e6 square, but I gotta do something. Point is, if rook takes d4, I have knight e2 check. This is gonna get weird. Okay, he takes at the rook. All right, so do I take here? Do I do something else? So take here, knight e6. Let's say king g8. He takes d8, I take. He takes a7, I take. I think that might be okay for me. I could also take here right away. But he has knight e5. Okay, let's take here.
Check.
Okay, I'm going to go up with the king, actually. I think I can do this. I have 27 seconds left, though. If he takes, I take d6, but he has rook a6 is the problem. That's what I'm grappling with right now. Okay, let's just get this closer. I do have this passed h-pawn. Okay, we'll come over and push the d-pawn now.
Check.
Probably not going to make it time-wise.
Time warning.
Okay, let's push this. Might be a draw.
Check.
Probably is a draw. Go attack that f-pawn. "17 seconds, what can you do, though?" Okay, now it's definitely a draw.
Draw?
Feel weird about offering a draw, but just pre-move that. See if we can cut his king off. Bring ours up.
Draw?
And you might just flag us. Think he's going to try to flag us. Let's go after that pawn.
Draw.
Ooh, we could have traded there. That would have been an immediate draw.
Check.
All right, now I can push the pawn and make a draw. He'll play b4, but I push the a pawn. All right, so drawn game. Yeah, I mean, whatever at the end. I guess he wanted to exploit the time edge, but I don't think he played the rook ending very well. There might have been some way for him to pressure me. Yeah, this opponent is just really tough. I'm always behind on the clock against this player. This is difficult, like knight fd2. Okay, let's go back and take a look, though. It was a very interesting game. I'm going to stick the engine on right from the get-go because it got complex pretty soon. All right, so Caro-Kann with the King's Indian attack. And I played bishop d6, and he went for this early d4. Might be some theory in this line, but I'm not aware of it. Take, I played c5. Okay, this could just be a bad move. I mean, if it's bad, it's bad. Because, you know, it does open up, like, weaknesses. Like, by taking on d5, I would have at least controlled e4 and c4. So I knew that this position was, like, acceptable for black, but I wasn't looking forward to the prospect of just defending an IQP position. c5 could be asking for it, though. Check, bishop d7,
check.
Queen e2, knight e7, knight e4. I played queen b6. Okay, queen c7 might be better. Well, in view of knight fd2, I'm kind of inclined to agree with that. I chose b6 because it just looked like the more active square, hitting the bishop as well. But c7 does stay out of the tempo range of the other knight. So that is very possible. So here, and he played a4. So let's see what the engine likes. Take
check.
d7, knight takes, and again this knight fd2 move, which I missed. Oh, and this is even worse because now I don't have the luxury of being able to play knight c8 because I'm exposed down the file. Moreover, I can't play queen d8 either. And if queen c7, knight c4, and something's got to give with my bishop. Yeah, no knight c8 or knight f5 because of the discovery again. Knight takes d6 check. So bishop would have to move and then pawn d6. Oof. Yeah, the computer says my best move now is to castle and just give up the bishop. Wow, so we were like a couple moves away from disaster. Bishop takes d7. But he played a4, and that at least allowed us some brief moment of defense. Okay, here I took on b5. It was better to play queen c7. And then after knight c4, knight c8. I didn't like this in view of stuff like, let's say, take, bishop f4. But maybe since he hasn't castled yet, I can get away with it. Queen
Check.
a5 check. Okay, and I counterattack his king. b4, queen takes
Check.
b4 check, c3, d takes c3, bishop takes d6, okay,
Check.
c2 check. Wild position. Very wild, wow. Too complicated for a 15-minute game. I played bishop takes b5 instead, and then queen back to d8, but he has an undoubted advantage here. Bishop g5 I wasn't really expecting. I thought he would just castle and stay flexible and basically see like how I was going to unwind because it's so annoying not to be able to play knight d7 here due to knight takes d6. My queen would be disrupted from the defense of d6. So I might end up playing like rook e8 or something, but then maybe tactical shots with knight f6 will be set up, like if he goes like rook e1 for instance. Yeah, rook e1 could just be a good move now. I have a lot of pieces on the back rank. All my pieces except one. So he goes bishop g5. I played bishop e7. He took. Yeah, f6 was another thing that came to mind. I thought his idea might be here, and then eventually put the bishop on g3. So bishop e7, he took. I took with the knight. Queen takes is marginally better, according to the engine, but I'm still a lot worse. So knight back to c8. I get developed. Still felt like I was barely above water here, but at least I'm not going to get checkmated or lose material. in the foreseeable future. Knight a5 was a good move. He wants to prevent me from exchanging because you know, my knights are like stepping on each other's toes. Moreover, I have all these weaknesses, and he wants to keep me cramped. He wants to keep creating threats. Knight a5 is a tempo move on my pawn, so it makes sense that he did that. And here, I mean, I would have preferred to assign the rook to defend the b pawn, but he has knight b3, I thought, attacking c5 and also the a7 pawn. Ooh, and there's also knight c6. I didn't see that. Take here, and we've got two pawns that are ready to just advance and cause utter devastation on our position, c7 being the main threat. So I played queen c8. He went queen f3, knight e5. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he must have missed something better coming up here, because he was playing very well, I thought. You know, h4 was a great move. Knights that are on g6 or g3, or on the other side of the board, b6, b3, are subject to rook pawn attacks, so hence h4. I played h5 and then queen g5, and I can't really defend this pawn too well other than doing what I did, which is trade queens. But it really felt like I must be close to losing here. I don't know about h6. He might just want to let me take this pawn, like waste time playing knight takes h5 rather than like making me take it. I thought he would just do this, and then the b pawn will be lost soon, so I'll probably just be down 2 pawns. Or, I mean, I guess I could win this pawn back, but the pawn I'll be down will be this important d pawn. Also, the a pawn will be under fire probably from his rook on a1 when the knight on a5 takes on b7. So knight takes c5 seemed better. Like here again, he did this, and
Check.
I have a minute and a half left, and I'm just trying to create counterplay. Just really trying to win the d pawn and distract him as much as humanly possible. Here, if I just play a passive move, he'll take on d4, and he'll be able to defend the d6 pawn, so like knight g6 or takes d4. This should be pretty easily winning, I think. +5 for white. So here, and I saw this like tactical idea that he can't take on d4 due to knight e2, so I just kind of went with that. He plays g3, I played f5. He took on f4, I took with a knight. This looks to be good play for both sides. And here he could improve by playing knight e5. Interesting. So then my knight is attacked, and if I go attack his knight, he can take and simultaneously defend that knight. And if this knight moves away somewhere, like h5, there's not even a lot of good squares for it. At the very least, he can play knight e6 check, but also just taking here gives him a pretty significant advantage. Yeah, these knights are, they're too much. Working together in tandem like that and supporting the d6 pawn, and me also having this a7 weakness, which my rook really can't leave now because if rook takes a7 check, it's far too much. I'm not coordinated. It's not an easy move to see, though, and you could kind of tell he was trying to pressure me on the clock, too, correctly so, I think. Now here, originally I was intending to play king g8, because the line I was worried about was, in the event that this happens, if he takes on a7, I don't think I can take here because of rook a6. This is what I was worried about. And that's why I wanted to have the king on g8 maybe. But, yeah, because if I trade, I'm outside of the box. I can't stop this pawn too far away. And even if I play, like, rook here, yeah, he can just trade.
Check.
And then I don't think I'll be able to stop these pawns. Like, you know, f5, for instance, will be winning. My d pawn is not dangerous enough, nor is my h pawn. He's too fast. Like, if the d pawn rolls, like, yeah, he'll expend a tempo to come over here with the king. But now, like, I would have to choose which pawn I want to stop, and my h pawn is not enough to concern him. I think I might be a tempo short. Here, yeah, I'm 1 tempo short. Let's say h3 here. H2. He can queen with check, force my king to take, and then queen again with check. Okay, and I never even get to queen my pawn. Ouch. So that's why initially I wanted to go to g8 with the king to avoid that. But I figured if he takes on a7, I could at the least either play d3 or just king here. I think this is the move I was intending to play. But I guess same thing, d7, and I can't take here, can I? f5 check. Oh yeah, I'm losing this again. So maybe I would have had to rely on the d3 move instead of king coming over. Take, king f1, now h5. Yeah, with the rooks on the board, it's a different story. And his pawns are split up, so he can't advance them so easily. Okay, this is pretty unclear. I know the computer says white's still much better, but this looks a lot less clear than the game. Or than the pure pawn ending, I mean. Instead, he played rook a6. I went king here.
Check.
I know for certain I didn't defend this in the best possible way. I guess I should have moved my d-pawn up the board sooner. d3, the engine wants to play. Take, take. King f1, otherwise d2 is coming. Rook c8. Trying to go rook c1. King e1, rook c2. Yep, this looks like a much more active defense. So now he has like a minute 54. I have 20-some seconds
Check.
left. I'm very surprised I managed to hold this.
Check.
But I remember the game that I drew with him previously in the Scandinavian, and that was also a rook ending. And I thought he did something kind of funny in that one too. Yeah, and here I got my rook to the second rank. So how could he have played for a win? What would have been the better way to do this? Maybe taking the position like right about here. Rook takes d3. So give it a check. Isn't that what he did? Yeah, and I played king back to b7. So engine says run the f-pawn. Rook d5, f6, take b5, rook e6, and try to make my life miserable by maintaining this pawn. Yeah, he offered a trade of the rooks, and I declined. And, I mean, my dream scenario is if I can do what I did in the game, which is liquidate the king side, then his extra pawn doesn't matter. It's on the side of the board where my king is, and it's doubled up. I mean, in fact, as we got over here, like, now I'm the only one who can win, because I win his pawn. It's still a complete draw, but, like, his king gets cut off, and I'm happy to localize the struggle to one side of the board. Yeah, and then, okay, he's going to try to flag me in a completely drawn position.
Check.
But, I mean, he maybe could have done it. It seemed like around here he kind of, like, agreed to the draw, basically, but he maybe could have done it. I mean, even here he's trying to, like, trick me. b4, like, hoping I don't see that I can run my pawn and deflect his king. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a little bit poor sportsmanship, but, you know, people have differing opinions on this. I'm not going to open up this can of worms again, but I would have given the guy a draw. Like, why do you want to spoil a pretty interesting game by, like, doing something kind of scummy, like flagging in a completely drawn position? But to each their own. So, yeah, I thought this was interesting. I definitely would not play c5 again if I had the option. I think taking on d5 and just playing the IQP position is better. But then again, I don't know the theory of this line, so I'll have to check on d4. If you have any experience with this d4 move, let me know in the comments. So, all right, thank you guys for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with another standard video. Talk to you guys later. Bye.